I think it's very common at one point or another for teenagers to sit in English class or science class and daydream about this very moment. At least boys in middle school. Girls, I've come to find out it's like age 3. They've got their napkin color picked out before kindergarten. But this lifelong rumination before marriage of, oh my gosh, what will it be like? I think is a very common experience. Even I myself went through it before the Lord yoinked me in a different direction. But we often sit there thinking, gosh, what will she be like? Will he be handsome? Will she even like me for who I am? Will he be faithful to me? And then the more we go down this path, the what ifs creep in. What if he's a crazy axe murderer? What if she's sweet, but a psycho? Just a little bit psycho. These ifs, these what ifs become very paralyzing because we can't control the future. And if is this word in the middle of the word life, where life itself is outside of our control. The future, any reasonable person will admit they can't control it. But even very few reasonable people, when you get down to it, would be hard-pressed to admit that they can't control life itself. This whole concept of the if embedded in the middle of the word life, which is a grammatical fluke that points to a greater reality, was the whole premise of an ad campaign of MetLife when I was growing up. We're here as an insurance company for the if in life. And they would show these, pictures of a family coming home from vacation, lovely and pleasantly tired, perfect marriage, by the way, coming into their home from Disney World and seeing their kitchen flooded, or something on fire, or their dog having done something spectacularly horrendous. And this kind of ad campaign by an insurance company to poke at our fear. This deep reality that there's so much in life that we cannot control. And the ifs become really intense, really paralyzing. And especially in a relationship, what starts moving towards a greater intentionality, he starts thinking of buying a ring. He starts kind of feeling out the prospect of whether or not she's going to embarrass him by saying no when he decides to propose. That whole kind of feeling each other out, talking about life. And what I've noticed in a very deep way as a priest is for those who do not have that grounding, that firm foundation in the Lord, are far more wavering to the winds of this world, to the ifs. They're more bending and more prone to falling over. There are a lot of circumstances in this life that you guys cannot account for. Money, health, the inverted yield curve, which might lead for the 7th time a recession in the past 80 years. Your success, your relationships, even making sure that you have an adequate level of fun in life. All of those are what we would call circumstantial to your marriage. Now, circumstances are important, but they are not essential. The very word circumstantial, circumstantia. These are all the elements that stand, stantia, around circum, where we get the word circle, stand around that which is essential to marriage. And yet those who do not have this firm foundation in Jesus Christ himself, in their belief in indissoluble marriage, in understanding as a fruitful relationship rooted in Jesus Christ as being fully given over to the other first and fully receiving the gift of the other. There's a biblical word, perichoresis, an interpenetration of each other's life, a mutual indwelling, a mutual gift and receptivity, with Jesus Christ essentially at the center. Everything else, the economy, everything else stands around your marriage. What you are doing now is building your life on that which is essential: God, each other, and your subsequent children. Those are the three essentials of your marriage: granite countertops, vacations to Disney World, and everything else is circumstancia, incidentals that stand around your marriage. Essentially speaking, in the marriage is love. And it's the great privilege of any married couple to choose the readings for their marriage. From Romans, you've picked, "I am convinced," says Paul, "that neither life, nor death, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers can separate us from the love of God." Angels may be circumstantial to the spiritual life, but life and death itself, that's pretty intense. And St. Paul says, not even those things can separate us from that which is essential, the love of God. And what you have been doing for the entirety of your lives is soaking up his love, going through little micro-conversions. Any plane that travels between Boston and LA, or literally any A to B, makes hundreds of thousands of micro-corrections to stay on course. I don't think pilots fall asleep, although sometimes with turbulence you wonder. But even if that were to happen and you drift off course, corrections to come back and stay back on course. So too, you've been practicing reconciliation, communion with our Lord your whole life, so that you may practice with each other communion and, when necessary, reconciliation, so that nothing circumstantial would trade the place of that which is essential in your marriage. Nothing, St. Paul, myself, and I hope you are convinced, nothing can separate you from the love of God. Secondly, each other. The second aspect of God, each other, and your children. You will make vows momentarily to prioritize the other in your own life, making room, giving way, the other as priority, as top shelf. You will literally say, "I promise to love and honor all the days of my life." If I were to press the congregation about how to love their spouse, they might be able to come up with some act of service, perhaps a word of affirmation. But if I were to press them about honoring their spouse, they might get a little uncomfortable. To honor your spouse is to give way to their needs. To honor your spouse is not just to love, but as the nuptial blessing will say upon you, to cherish. A desirous love which is so deep that it is willing to sacrifice, willing to accept the inadequacies of the other, even so much as to make them one's own inadequacies. This is too becoming one. A lot of people say, well, gosh, Here you are in this beautiful church. Everyone's around you. We're ready to party in a little while. Everything's great. Some of the more cynical marriages will kind of, during the homily, look over to their spouse and be like, they have no idea what's ahead of them. And sometimes we use this attitude as an excuse to say, if things fizzle out, well, how can you really make a lifelong commitment? How can you really let your word kind of be what you were going to do with your life? And we begin to undermine what a vow really is. You guys are part of what we consider the church militant, soldiers for Jesus in this world. And every sacramentalized marriage is considered such. And yet, soldiers, dudes when they're 17, 18 through 20-something, when they take that oath to defend and protect the flag, the Constitution, the country itself, most of them know nothing about explosions or barbed wire or the gore of war. And yet, we as a country, if in the midst of battle, a soldier gives up and deserts, they get court-martialed. We hold them to their word. So too in the business world, when one enters into a contract freely, one knows nothing about the future of the economy. One knows nothing about the circumstances of everything else about that contract. And yet if one evades one of those clauses, we sue their butt. And we hold them to their word. This is something we have dearly lost in the Christian world and in the Catholic world. Throughout the rest of the day, a lot of people will come up to you and ask about your honeymoon plans and say a whole bunch of if you ever need anything. When things get tough, take them up on it. Reach out and ask for help. Let not your pride get in the way of your need for vulnerability with each other and with those whom you trust. You who are gathered here today, as good and awesome as you look, we're not here for entertainment. We're not here for the amazing photographs. No offense, photographers. We are here to uphold their vows. That they will change the course of their life, Kelly making Alec her path to heaven, and Alec making Kelly his path to heaven. Not to be deserted, not to be forsaken. It doesn't matter what the if in life is, your vow acts as its own insurance against anything that is to come. And it is a beautiful reality indeed. For unlike the soldier and unlike the businessman, this agreement, this vow, this promise, this contract that you will enter into, holy matrimony, is a union which is the foundation of society itself. It is a relationship that reflects the inner life of the Holy Trinity. It is a commitment not of practicality foremost, but of love. And you, in so doing, will receive sacramental grace as your own insurance policy for the ifs in life. This is two becoming one. This is what you are about to embark upon. This union will be bolstered by God, and it will demand of you far more than you want to give and that you think you have the capacity to give. And it, if you let it, will save your souls. after you exchange your vows, after you receive the nuptial blessing, and after you come together in marital unity. Your indissoluble marriage will be the safest place for each other's heart to reside. You in her and you in him, just as you both are in Jesus who is in the Father. This unity given by God. And this is the very plan that God has given us for the coming of new life. New life which is the most vulnerable, the most able to be hurt, destroyed, messed up, formed, loved, nurtured, and given the resilience of life. Your marriage is to be that safest place for the most innocent of souls coming into this world. If it is indeed your intention to enter into this mystery, that which is holy matrimony, I invite you to take a deep breath, and I invite you to please come forward, joined by your wedding party.